Okay, what's up guys? My name is Josh and welcome to another Let's Talk. I think this is episode like 14, 15, somewhere around there. So we're getting kind of up there, which is awesome. I love these things. I think they're fun to talk about. And the backwards hat made a return. Don't judge me, okay? Somebody asked for more coffee, so what I'm drinking today is Starbucks house blend made out of a French press. This is my second cup, so I'm a little wired. I'm just kidding, I'm not that bad. Okay, so today I want to talk about why digital. Sorry about the sound, I just realized that the microphone wasn't close to me at all, so now it should be a little bit better. A while ago I made a video titled Why Vinyl, and it was basically talking about the reasons why I like vinyl. If you haven't seen that, there will be a link down below. To sum that up, basically, for me, vinyl doesn't sound better. I just like the medium because it means something to me personally on an emotional level. I also like the tangibility of going to a store, picking out a vinyl. I like cleaning it. I like maintaining it. And that's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. My preferred format, though, honestly, is digital. I do like vinyl. I think it has its own place, and I respect the format. I think that, you know, the whole thing can be a little bit snake oily or whatever, but that's not really that big of a deal. That doesn't really involve me or concern me that much. But why would I prefer digital? Well, honestly, I prefer digital for a few reasons. To sum them up, repeatability of the sound, and it's exactly the same or close to exactly the same, definitely closer than vinyl is, and I'll talk about why. And the cleanliness of the sound, so you don't have dust or static or anything like that, or worrying about like grooves wearing down over time or having the stylus wear out. Convenience, dynamic range and bass, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second too. And then the big one is going to be cost. Vinyl records are expensive, and digital audio is a whole lot cheaper, and if you so choose, you can pirate it, which as a creator myself, I don't recommend you do. If you have the opportunity to support a creator, support them. If you are going to pirate, at least do them a favor of introducing people to artists that you really like, so maybe they go and purchase it and spread the message around. But nowadays, like streaming services like Google Play or Spotify or Tidal, they're so cheap and so easy to pay for that you really don't have that big of an excuse to not like pay $5-10 a month for a streaming service to at least support the artists a little bit. But that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother video. So let's talk about cleanliness and repetition of the sound. So with vinyl, over time, if you play a record 10,000 times, it is not going to sound the same. You're talking about a format that is subject to wear and tear. And because you're talking about an analog form and a physical form, it is subject to fail. And digital formats do not have the same degradation. You could be talking about a digital format on a CD, but let's talk about a digital format like an MP3 or a FLAC file. Barring the failure of like a hard drive or something like that, you are not going to have any issues repeating that song from 1 play to 10,000 plays, and it's going to sound exactly the same every time. Yes, computers are subject to errors. They totally are. But records can be subject to debris falling on them, to dust getting in them, to them breaking down. And digital is a far less susceptible format. And it's a little bit cleaner. You don't have to worry about dust and particulates. And you can take a file straight from the studio and just plop it on your computer, and you are not going to have any degradation whatsoever. That's one benefit to digital. Now, another benefit is convenience, and you can have digital files on your phone. I have FLAC files on my phone. I use a FooBar 2000 app that I have FLAC files playing out of. I don't tend to use my phone that much. I do prefer my computer, but I can have them on here and I don't have to carry around a CD player or a record player or something like that. So obviously when you're talking about convenience, this obviously takes the cake on, you know, what's easy. Also having the ability to skip or search and just go straight to a specific track, whereas on an analog format, you have to kind of find it or move the stylus around or speed up the record player or something like that. And it's not as smooth and as easy to go from track to track or album to album, artist to artist, etc. Also, if you're really specific with your music, having the ability to have playlists and random songs from random artists on one whole playlist is not something that I personally don't feel like should be undervalued, because I use that all the time. And there are tracks that are wonderful sounding, but I don't consider them to be favorites or good testing songs, so they don't get put on a playlist. But then another song from the same album could have those benefits, and I could put it on a playlist. All right, now let's talk about dynamic range and bass. So I should preface this by saying that I am not a specialist when it comes to pressing albums or creating vinyl records or anything like that. So everything I hear is hearsay, and I'm not sure how much fact is behind it. I did research it quite a bit, but I wasn't able to find any hard evidence that proved it to me. But I have seen bits here and there that support kind of what I have heard. So from what I hear, and take this with a huge grain of salt, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be an expert. It's just hearsay, and I'm just passing on a rumor at this point. Format of vinyl is subject to some errors and to some sacrifices that it has to make, such as cutting off the bass notes at a certain level. So below a certain frequency, I've heard 80 hertz. I'm not sure how accurate it is. It could be higher, it could be lower. But below, let's just say 80 hertz for the sake of example, even if it's wrong, they do stop actually making grooves lower than that because the grooves get too deep and the actual needle will pop out. So are you going to get like 25 hertz like rumbles? No. The most solid proof of this is I was actually watching a kind of a Hans Zimmer documentary talking about the Dark Knight soundtrack, and that the location that was actually pressing the vinyls for sent it back because they had notes that were too deep for them to actually press in the record. And I've seen a few bits of information in discussion boards, but with discussion boards, you always have to take them with a grain of salt because what people may be saying could be based on fact, or it could be based off of what they heard from a friend, from a friend, from a friend, and we've all played that telephone game. And one of the things that I'm trying to work on this channel is bringing you as much fact as possible. Unfortunately, sometimes things are not always listed. This is actually one of those things. So if I'm going to talk about it, I want to make it very, very clear that it's just hearsay. And then the last thing is going to be cost. So an average record like The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd on Amazon, if you want to buy the vinyl, it's like $30. And then I've seen digital records being sold for like $5, or you could just get a Google Play subscription, which gives you access to 35 million songs and Dark Side of the Moon. So cost definitely goes to digital, and that can be a huge factor and a huge consideration to what you're purchasing, because I know a lot of people out there don't want to spend a whole lot on music, and in terms of what you put your money towards, I know that that is really low on people's totem poles usually. And with records, a lot of times you can be talking about repeatedly buying a record if you like it enough. So like I have a Sam Smith album, the In the Lonely Hour album. And I love that album. That's one of my favorite records. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. And you know, it's got a couple scratches on it, so I'll eventually buy like a cleaner, newer version, but I'm buying the same record again and again and again. And that all adds up. So like one record, instead of just taking a digital file that maybe costs $10, which I also own, you're now talking about like 100, maybe 120 bucks over the course of buying that record, you know, 3 or 4 times throughout your life. Now, that's not going to be the same for every album or every case, but that is an example of how vinyl can really cost a lot more. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. And I'll see you in the next video. I got a couple things that just came out that are really fun, like the 5.8X review from Mastrop. Not a super popular headphone, but that review is really, really popular. So hopefully I can spread the message, because for 150 bucks, that's a great headphone. Also have a comparison between that and the 6XX, and that's coming out in like a day or two, which is awesome. Can't wait for that to come out, because that video should be a lot of fun. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. So have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.